Welcome to Tech Blueprint, a window that lets you know the latest technology news in the world. A global game of chips and rare earths, the winner is no longer in suspense. An F-35 fighter requires 417 kilograms of rare earth materials, and 87% of the main combat equipment of the United States relies on Chinese rare earths. When China tightened the gate of rare earth exports, the United States turned to Samsung and TSMC to swing the chipstick, but the European Union changed its flight ticket overnight and flew to Beijing for negotiations. The trump card of this game has long been on the table. The United States' chip encirclement allies have become victims. In June 2025, the U.S. Department of Commerce suddenly notified Samsung, TSMC, and SK Hynix cancel their full exemption for transporting chip equipment to Chinese factories. In the future, each lithography machine and each set of etching equipment will need to apply for a license separately, and the approval may be delayed for months, or even rejected, with the reason of threatening national security. This knife is not only aimed at Chinese companies, but also at the United States' own allies. Samsung's 11nm factory accounts for 40% of its global NAND flash memory production, with annual sales of 11 trillion yuan. SK Hynix's Wuxi factory undertakes 20% of the world's DRAM production capacity. The new regulations put these companies in a dilemma. If they obey the ban, they will lose the Chinese market. If they disobey it, they will face U.S. sanctions. The White House's true intention is not concealed: to use chips to strangle China and force China to make concessions on the rare earth issue. 4 months ago, China imposed export controls on 7 military rare earths, including dysprosium and terbium, which directly led to the delay of mass production of F-35 fighter jets in the United States and the shutdown of Ford's automobile factory. The Pentagon report shows that it will take at least 5 years for the United States to rebuild its rare earth supply chain, and military inventory is only enough to support 18 months. China's rare earth counterattack, precise sniping at the lifeline of the United States. China holds 90% of the world's rare earth refining capacity, especially military materials such as samarium cobalt magnets, required for missile guidance, and dysprosium alloys for fighter engines, which are almost 100% monopolized. The countermeasures can be described as surgical. Military supply cutoff. Strictly restrict the export of military rare earths such as samarium and dysprosium, and the Pentagon is struggling to find substitutes. Civilian release. Open a green channel to European car companies and Japanese and Korean electronics companies, and issue temporary licenses within 6 months. This division has torn the U.S. camp apart from within. German Volkswagen, Stellantis and other car companies obtained rare earth magnets through rapid approval, and the production line resumed operation, while the U.S. Ford factory was forced to shut down for 3 weeks due to magnet shortage. The American Automotive Innovation Alliance urgently wrote to the White House, "If China's rare earth parts cannot be obtained, car production will stop immediately." What makes the United States even more desperate is the technological gap. Even if the Mountain Pass rare earth mine in California is restarted, 80% of the rough ore still needs to be shipped to Baotou, China for refining. The cost of rare earth separation in China is only $5.50 per kilogram, while the cost of trial production for U.S. companies is as high as $12, and they were fined $37 million for excessive uranium in wastewater. The EU's compromise, from G7 toughness to Beijing's purchase. On the same day that the United States made its move, the EU staged a dramatic turn. The Vice President of the European Commission quietly changed his flight ticket, moved the venue from Brussels to Beijing, and rarely added an inspection trip to the Anhui Rare Earth Industrial Park, where the world's largest rare earth deep processing cluster is gathered. Behind this is the real panic of European industries. 98% of the EU's rare earths rely on China. If the supply is completely cut off, the wind power and electric vehicle industries will be paralyzed within 18 months. The German Automobile Suppliers Association warned, there are only 2 to 4 weeks of inventory left in the production line, and many factories have been closed due to magnet shortages. Although European Commission President von der Leyen accused China of weaponizing rare earths at the G7 summit, she privately asked companies to cooperate with Chinese supervision. The conditions offered by China are clear: want rare earths. First, untie the chains of ASML's lithography machine. The high-end lithography machine of ASML in the Netherlands is strangled by the US ban, and the EU has no chips to fight against China, and is powerless to resist the United States. In the end, the EU chose to bow its head. On June 26, China's Ministry of Commerce announced that it had approved compliance applications for rare earth exports to the EU in accordance with the law. The European Association of Automotive Suppliers confirmed that the license approval speed has increased from 25% to 60%, and Volkswagen and Stellantis production lines have resumed operation. This game has torn open the cruel reality of the global supply chain. The paradox of the United States, getting rid of Chinese technology. Tesla signed an order for 7,000 tons of rare earths in Australia, but found that the other party's smelting technology came from China. Xinghe Resources, General Electric moved its magnet production line to Yantai to obtain dysprosium quotas. Betrayal of allies. South Korea began to lobby the White House to relax restrictions because Samsung lost $30 million a day. Japan secretly transferred Chinese rare earths through a third country, but was accurately intercepted by China Customs isotope detectors. When the U.S. Secretary of Commerce threatened to not allow China to make chips, TSMC founder Morris Chang had already seen through the truth: the mainland's semiconductor progress is far beyond expectations. SMIC uses ASML's second-hand DUV lithography machine to mass-produce 7-nanometer chips, and Huawei's Ascend 910C has 80% of the performance of NVIDIA's H100 and 40% lower cost. These technologies are all breakthroughs forced by the US blockade. On the most advanced F-35 fighter assembly line in the United States, workers are counting boxes of samarium cobalt magnets shipped from Anhui, China. The box label is printed with a line of small words: for civilian use only, prohibited for military use. This is the number of China's rare earth export license.